everybody, and welcome to Monday Morning Must Knows. My name is Merlin and let's talk about the upcoming trading week. Now, as you know, it's a shorter week. Why? Because Monday is Memorial Day, a day where most Americans take the time off and go and celebrate and party and have barbecues and just enjoy life, as you should. But remember, your freedom to enjoy that life came at a cost, and there are millions of Americans who sacrificed and paid the ultimate price to fight for our freedoms and died in the line of battle. So it's one of those days where when you are out celebrating, you are having a good time and enjoying your life and your freedom. Remember those, even if you didn't even know them. Give a little cheers to those that have paid the ultimate price for us to have those freedoms and live in one of the greatest countries on the planet. Memorial Day on Monday. Moving on to Tuesday, we have earnings to speak of. Nothing compared to what we've had the last few weeks, but let's be honest, earnings have been really, really good. We have 239 companies reporting this week. Nothing on Monday, of course, because we are closed. Moving on to Tuesday, we've got AutoZone and Zscaler. Wednesday brings us Salesforce, Abercrombie & Fitch, Marvell Technologies, Dick's Sporting Goods, Agilent and Synopsys. Thursday, another big list here. You've got Costco, Network Appliances, Best Buy, Kohl's, and Dollar Tree. A lot of retailers there, and that is pretty much it. There's nothing really happening on Friday that's noteworthy on the earnings calendar front. So really, a lot of retailers here. Now let's shift our focus back to the important stuff. Grand economic data, growth, inflation, jobs, all that is so relevant right now. And we have a new chairman of the Fed, which could change things a little bit as far as information disclosure. But we'll dive right into growth. We want to see economic growth in the United States. You want to see GDP rising. There's a lot of different assumptions about average should be, but if we're between 2 and 3%, a lot of people look at that as being a very good thing. Well, what do the previous numbers look like? They weren't that great. You can see here on your screen, we had 0.7 was the previous reading that we had. Granted, we had wild fluctuations in 2020, but we've kind of normalized here. Right now, the expectations are that we're not going to come out at 0.7. We're going to come out at 2.1% for the quarter. So that is a good sign. We're seeing an expectations of increased productivity and gross domestic product for the United States, which means growth, which is usually a good sign for the markets. Well, conveniently, markets are at all-time highs as well. Dow, S&P, Nasdaq, Russell, all just looking off to the left-hand side of that chart going, hey, is there any supply back there? Because I don't see anything to stop this thing from rolling. This might be a big factor in that continued success of the equity markets is growth. That is coming out on Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So 1 hour before the markets open, this should be there, and that will give us a nice little pop for the markets. And I say pop, could be up, could be down, really depending on if it exceeds expectations or misses expectations. So be careful. If you're trading pre-market, you already deal with low liquidity. You'll probably have even more volatility because of that announcement pre-market. But there's another announcement happening pre-market, which I think is even more important. Under Jerome Powell, we've been taught that the Core PCE price index is the most important piece of inflationary data that we should be focusing on. That information comes out Thursday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. You can see here also that it dropped the previous month from 0.4 down to 0.3. And on this chart, it does look slightly elevated compared to what we saw back in 2018, 19, and 20, but not extraordinarily high. If it stays at 0.3%, remember that would equal a 3.6% inflation rate annualized. That's not good. What is the market expecting? Well, market is expecting a 0.3 number yet again. And I've got to play devil's advocate here. I am definitely a believer that this number is going to jump up just a little bit. Why? Because crude oil has stayed persistently above $90. As close on Friday, I think we're looking at crude oil at $96 per barrel. That is going to continue to drag transportation costs up, shipping costs, plastic materials, airplane fuels, all that stuff going to be higher because of this. And I think you'll start to see this tick up a little bit. But right now the expectation is 0.3. I think you're going to get a 0.4 number. We shall see next week when you do the Monday Morning Must Knows yet again. So this week it's about kind of moderate earnings. It's a week about remembrance for Memorial Day. It's also about looking at economic growth and, of course, this stuff right here, which is inflationary data. I'm curious to see what Kevin Warsh says about this. Remember, he was sworn in last Friday, and I'm expecting him to say something as these new announcements come out and which data are they going to hold to be most important. So we're going to get a slight change here in the way that the Federal Reserve reports information to you and I, and that will be, a few months till we really feel out how Kevin Warsh is as the chairman. How does he speak? How does he do press conferences? How does he release data? And what does he find important? That's kind of finding that new path with Kevin Warsh, and we'll determine that this week, especially as he has some important data here to talk about. So that, my friends, is your Monday Morning Must Knows. Hope you have a fantastic weekend. Have a great Memorial Day. And remember, all those fallen soldiers, and we shall see you next week.